Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Beluga Whale and welcome back to another League of Legends Preseason 2016 video. And today we're going to be talking about Maokai. Now I tried to get this video up yesterday on Christmas Day because I have the Maokai Christmas tree skin and it was going to be like my Christmas Day video. But unfortunately I had some issues with YouTube and it will be uploaded today. You guys are seeing it on the 26th. So anyways, I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, whatever you do celebrate, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. Okay, so here we are on the client. And before we even talk about the boring stuff, I'm going to be making this video in a different fashion than I usually make my videos, where I'm recording the audio separate from the video. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's going to fix any of the lag problems I have when we get to the gameplay. But if it sounds weird to you guys, or I don't know why it would, because I'm going to edit it after this, but if there's a problem with it, let me know. That's why it would sound different if it does. So the boring stuff is I have a Twitter if you guys want to follow me there. Their YouTube updates are automatically posted to it, and sometimes I'll ask questions about what kind of video you guys want to see, or just generally interact with Twitter. So if you want to follow me there, that's cool. And then two, if you want to join this chat room called Whale Lounge on NA, I'm always signed in when I'm signed into League. The way that you join it is you view your chat room's control panel, join a chat room, and you would just type in Whale Lounge, and it'll open this up. I have it to where I auto join on startup, and if you want to join this and then leave any questions you have, or when I play normals, and when I say when I play normals, I know most of you guys are probably jungle mains because you watch my channel, so what we would be playing are the featured game modes. So right now it'd be Legend of the Poro King, and then I'll definitely be playing a lot of Earth when we get to April, and just depending on what it is, you know, I'll get people from here to play those. So if you want to join this, if you want to play with me, or you just want to ask questions here, that would be good. And we do have some music, but since I'm adding in the audio after I record the visuals, and it's not a YouTube video anyways, I think it's called Hip Hop Christmas, and it's on the YouTube audio library. I'll know the exact name and the artist in the description, so you can look in the description if you want the music that's playing. And now we can move on to the guide stuff. So for runes, I run the tank runes. I think I've already shown these on the Nautilus video, but if you haven't seen that, these are my updated tank runes. They're a little bit different than I had them in Season 5. I traded out the cooldown and magic resist, or ability power runes, for all magic resist scaling. The reason for that is because all the AP items and AP champions in general got kind of nerfed. They're not bad, but all it means is that it takes them longer to do as much damage. So if you take scaling level magic resist blues, they have a lot more efficiency than they used to. So I usually take, well, I do take these on my tanks. They're really good right now. As for yellows, I take scaling health yellows like usual. You're building Cinderhulk, and Maokai does scale with health on his passive heals, so scaling health are the best. And since you are taking scaling health here, you need to take armor somewhere, so I do take 3 armor quintessences. These armor, you could just take 2 armor quints and maybe a movement speed quint if you wanted to do that, but as for me, I really like to prioritize being as tanky as I can over some other things when I play my tanks. So I take the 3 armor quints, but you could definitely get away with 2 armor quints and a movement speed quint. And if you don't have scaling health per level yellows, you would want to take armor yellows and then probably all movement speed quints, or maybe health quints if you can't take the health here. Or even ability power would be okay on the quints, but really I'd recommend armor or movement speed, or maybe health. And then finally the reds, I have attack speed reds. It doesn't really make sense to get penetration marks when you're playing a tank jungler, so I usually take attack speed reds. They help out your first clears quite a lot, and the more attack speed you have, the easier it's going to be to actually auto and get your passive on Maokai, so it's fine to build attack speed on him. And yeah, these are just my general tank runes. It does say Mao Jungle, but that's just because I'm too lazy to change it to Tank Jungle. This is what I run on all my tanks. Now, as for Masteries, these are the tank Masteries that I've been running, and it's 12, 0, 18. You might think that 12 and Cunning is more important, but I really like these Masteries because what these Masteries focus on are clearing the jungle early, and then taking as little damage as you can. And it's really important that you're able to clear the jungle quickly early game because of how fast the meta is right now. So as you guys probably know, the average game time is like under 30 minutes. So you can't be worried about necessarily your optimal damage late game. You have to worry so much about early game. So that's why I like to focus on taking early clear masteries. I take attack speed because once again it makes you clear a lot faster if you take attack speed over sorcery. If you're laning as Maokai, you would want to switch this to sorcery though for sure. Or you might even want to go into cunning, but in the jungle, Fury's good. And I take Feast just because on your first clear it gives you a little more health. And the main reason I take Feast is to avoid double-edged sword. So last season I used to say double-edged sword was like the best mastery in the game, and it still is really good, but honestly it's okay to skip it for Feast. That way you won't be taking the increased damage and you'll have a little more sustain, but if you want to take double-edged sword, that's fine. Both of these are fine. You don't have sustain problems to the point where you need Feast for sure, so either one of these are fine. And then I take Vampirism because I don't really like Natural Talent that much. Natural Talent's better on AP junglers than it is on AD junglers. So if you want to take Natural Talent, that's okay on Maokai, but I just prefer a little bit more sustain over this. And then Oppressor for sure, because you're not looking to get any kills on a tank jungler, you're just looking to help your team, so there'd be no reason to take Bounty Hunter. Then over here, basically I just took all the masteries that are clearly better than the other ones, so I don't really want to talk about all of them, but bonus armor and magic resist is better than 2 extra health per 5. A percentage bonus is much better than that. And then here you take less damage, that means it's easier clearing. And then team fights, this is from champion and monster attack, so this just makes you take less damage overall. You could take this, but you don't really need to. Runic armor is much better than veteran scars now that they nerfed it. Before, veteran scars was probably better on Maokai, but now 45 health is nothing. 45 health is like maybe an auto attack early game. 1 auto attack from a champion, and then this increases all your shields, healing, and regeneration, and lifesteal. So it even increases this, and increases your passive, and it will increase any shields or heals from your support. Reduced summoner cooldown is better than some increased health regen, but perseverance is actually really good too. And if you feel like you're dying a lot on Maokai, you can take it, but I take Insight. And then the swiftness is much better than this one because they nerfed Merc Treads so much. So if you take these and you take Merc Treads, you'll have about as much tenacity as you had before they changed it. But if you don't take these, if you take this and then you try to get Merc Treads, you'll feel like they aren't doing anything, and that's because they made this mastery so good. So that's why I always take this mastery. And then Grasp of the Undying is best for tank junglers. If you're laning as Maokai, you could take Strength of the Ages maybe, but Grasp would still be better because it works so well with your passive. And then Bond of Stone, you would never really take that because that's really a support mastery. So Grasp of the Undying because it works so well with your passive. Now we'll move on to item sets, and I already have them here, we don't have to pause it. So starting items, I do start Hunter's Talisman because obviously you're spell based on Maokai and you do have some mana problems early, so if you went with Hunter's Machete you would just be out of mana all the time, and then that would hurt your jungling clear a lot. So you take Hunter's Talisman. I take Refillable Potion because I'm very experienced on Maokai and it's not really that hard to clear with a Refillable Potion on Maokai. But if you're having problems or this is the first time you've ever played Maokai, then feel free to take 3 health pots instead. This is going to give you quite a lot more sustain on your first clear, but the first time you back, Refillable Potion becomes worth more gold than the 3 health pots were. So if you can take refillable, you should, but maybe first time Maokai, you take the health pots, and then you start with a yellow trinket to avoid being invaded at level 1, and then the first time you back, you want to trade that out for a red trinket, and then at level 9, you want to get this trinket at level 9. So the build, I do usually try to take these 6 items on all of my Maokai games. I take Green Smite. We'll just talk down the line. I'm not going to try to generalize. So I take Green Smite because I think it's the best smite in the game. If you don't like Green Smite, then I would definitely go Blue Smite. I wouldn't really go Red Smite on Maokai because a lot of people think Red Smite's good for tanks because it makes you take less damage. But if you go with the build that I'm showing you right here, you're not going to take any damage anyways. And then since you're so spell based, it would be okay once again to have Red Smite for your autos, but overall you're going to find more usage from your Blue Smite. However, as for me, I think Green Smite's the best, especially on tank junglers. If you're not placing wards, you're really hindering your team. So I take Green Smite, and then of course Cinderhulk because you are a tank. You could go Rune Wave, I guess, but that would be really bad. And they're about to change this, I think, next patch. This is still 5.24, but they're gonna release a new like Runic Echo, I think it's called. And that's also why I haven't made an Elise and Echo video, if you guys are wondering. I'm waiting on the new AP item. But anyways, green smite center hook because you're playing a tank and green smite's the best smite. And then as for boots, I usually try to go boots with swiftness because they're so cheap and they're really good. They give you so much movement speed for so cheap. However, if you're versus an all AD team, then Ninja Tabby will obviously be better. And if the enemy team has a lot of CC, then you can go Merc Treads. But if they don't have that much CC, like if they have two champions that don't have any CC on them at all, then you can definitely go Boots of Swiftness. But if they only have one champion that doesn't have any CC, or they all have CC, I'd probably go Merc Treads. Unless if they're all AD, then you want to go Ninja Tabby. Now, finally, I had been going Righteous Glory recently in my games, and this is... If you've actually seen my old Maokai in-depth guide, I used to go Righteous Glory then, but Righteous Glory was a lot better back then. However, I still think it's really good right now. You're going to be really tanky if you go it with just the health that it gives you, and from Center Hulk and everything, you're still going to be tanky, you're not going to be worried about dying. And then the active is really good for early game pressure because the game accelerates so quickly now, like I was saying earlier, that it's really good if you can take Righteous Glory early. And then it'll make a big difference in your early game team fights instead of saving it for later and then maybe losing team fights or something because you didn't have Righteous Glory. So this is what I've been rushing. You don't have to rush it. You don't even have to get it if you don't want it, but I'm showing you the build that I am going on Maokai. And then next, I do go Iceborne Gauntlets because you guys know that I think Iceborne Gauntlets are extremely good on tanks right now. They give you 65 armor, which is good. 20% CDR is the big one, and then they also give you 500 mana, which will help with your mana problems on Maokai. But like I said, the big one is the 20% CDR, and it gives you a Spellblade effect, so after you use an ability, your next auto attack will deal some more damage, and it'll slow an area around the target that you auto. So overall, Gauntlets are really good for tanks right now, just because it's the cheapest way you can get 20% CDR on an item, and it gives you a little more CC, and it gives you decent armor, and it helps with your mana problems. Just overall, I really think they're really great. And then finally, well, next I go Spirit Visage because it goes so well with Maokai. Since you are going Grasp of the Undying, Spirit Visage will increase how much Grasp heals you. It will also increase how much your passive heals you. And any other healing, if your support can heal you or anything like that. Gives you 70 magic resist, which is the most an item can give you in the game. 500 health isn't bad at all, and then it gives you another 10% CDR, which is also really good. So overall, Spirit Visage is a very, very good item on Maokai. You guys probably already know that. And I do get it nowadays. Just the main reason I get it is because it goes so well with Grasping the Undying and your passive. And then for the last item, so what they've been doing recently is buffing randoms every patch and nerfing Deadman's Blade every patch. So as of right now in the current state of the game, 5.24, I think that Deadman's is best for bruiser champions like Lee Sin or Wukong. If you're going that kind of build, not the build I showed you, or Hecarim or any of those like bruiser champions, Deadman's is better. But tanks, I would have to say randoms is a lot better right now. Gives you 450 health, which isn't bad. It gives you 60 armor, which is 10 more than Deadman's gives you, and it gives you reduced damage from critical strikes. And in an AD carry meta, if you can take reduced damage from critical strikes, that's really good because pretty much every item that AD carries build now give them critical strike chance. So I think randoms is best for tanks, and then Deadman's for bruisers. But as always, this is the build I would recommend, but you can take any of these alternatives. We already talked about the boots. If you don't want to go Gauntlets, Frozen Heart is really good. It also gives you 20% CDR. It gives you way more armor. It gives you 25 more armor. It gives you a little less mana, but it also reduces attack speed of nearby enemies by a little bit. So overall, they're probably... The only reason that I think Iceborne Gauntlets are better is because of the Spellblade passive. It makes you do a little more damage, and that way you can't be ignored. But if you are really worried about taking damage, then you can go Frozen Heart. That's fine. That's fine too. We already talked about Deadman's. You can go Deadman's if you want. If you don't want to build Righteous, I would actually get Deadman's pretty early. Like, say, maybe like this. But I go Righteous, so this is fine. You can trade in Deadman's if you want for Righteous or for randoms, but I would probably keep these two. Banshee's Veil, if you're versus a bunch of APs, then obviously don't go Iceborne Gauntlets, go Spirit Visage and then go Banshee's Veil next. And then you can go Abyssal Scepter if you want. Sorry for my voice cracking. You can go Abyssal Scepter if you want. And the times I would go Abyssal Scepter is if I'm versus a lot of AP champions, or I have a lot of AP champions on my team, or I have a bunch of AD and I need to do a little bit more damage, because Abyssal Scepter, while 70 ability power isn't that much, the reduced magic resist of all nearby enemies by 20 is going to increase all of your spell damage and your Cinder Hulk damage. It does magic damage to champions. And it'll just make you, once again, not ignorable. And that's the worst thing that a tank can do, is build to where they're ignorable. And then finally, for last two, Thornmail is a good item right now, especially if you get gauntlets. If you get gauntlets, you should always be considering going Thornmail, because it makes your gauntlet slow very, very large. But overall, I think these items are better because they skip, or they synergize better with your Cinder Hulk than Thornmail does, since Thornmail doesn't give you any health. However, if you're versus 5 AD or something, feel free to go Thornmail. And then finally, ZZ Rot, for your last item here, if you're versus a really balanced team, like they have good AD and they have good AP, you can go ZZ Rot. ZZ Rot's a really good item. And what you want to do with ZZ Rot is just place it into a lane that you want to constantly push. So usually I place ZZ Rot near bot lane, and that way I know that bot lane is going to push no matter what. Bot lane will always be pushing. And then that way you can pressure the other lanes on the map, and the enemy's going to have to send someone bot to stop the push. And it's kind of like having someone split push for you all the time. So ZZ Rot's actually a really good item, and I don't see many people use it, but if you use it in that way, then it's really good. Sorry, I said it's really good like 8 times in a row, but it is a good item. It gives you good stats and has a good active. So that's it for the item sets. I don't know why my voice kept cracking in this, but we did it. We're done with item sets. These are the 6 I'd recommend. If you want to trade in any of these are all good on Maokai. Runes are standard tank runes wherever they are here. And Masteries are, these are my tank Masteries right now. So next we'll be moving on to the gameplay. Okay, so here we are loading into the game, and as usual when you're loading into a game, you want to try and look at both teams and then determine what how you're going to gank. So looking at both teams, our top laner is actually Lee Sin, and we had jungle Maokai, which is me of course. Their top laner was Kinnan, and Kinnan's only escape is his movement speed increase on his E. So he's kind of easy to gank, but it does give him a lot of movement speed, so it can be difficult. However, once Lee Sin hits 6, it really shouldn't be that hard, because then we have a lot of CC to keep him there. Mid lane, it's Zed versus Ahri. They both move around all over the place. If Ahri somehow hits a charm on Zed, then it's actually a really easy gank. But if not, it's kind of hard for Maokai to get to Zed. And then bot lane, they have Tristana, who's not easy to gank. And let me make sure chat is off. Okay. They have Tristana, who's not that easy to gank, and they have Nami, and Nami's actually pretty easy to gank. Why won't the camera? There we go. Nami's pretty easy to gank, but not Tristana. So honestly, it doesn't look like I'll get really easy ganks anywhere. So I might just focus on farming this game, which is fine on Maokai. On tank junglers, it's generally a lot better if you can get ganks off, but if they just pick really safe laners, then they just have really safe laners, so there's not that much you can do. So my primary focus is going to be farming this game, and then if I can get a counter gank off or a gank, I'll look for those. Notice how I do start E on Maokai, it's the same. The skill order is the exact same as the very old Maokai in-depth guide, if you guys haven't seen that. And if you want to see me talk about all the skills, you can see it over there too. The skill order is the exact same: E at level 1, Q at level 2, W at level 3, max your Q first, and then your W second. Now, you want to throw your E out at 1 minute and 6 seconds, as you saw me do here, because your saplings last for 35 seconds, and monsters spawn at 1 minute and 40 seconds. So if you throw your sapling at 1 minute and 6 seconds, you'll know for sure that your sapling is going to hit the monster camp, right? You could throw it at 105, but that's really not going to make a difference in how many saplings you're able to get up on the monster camp. And then sometimes if you throw it at 105, you happen to throw it a little too early, the monster camp spawns and your first sapling doesn't even hit it. So make sure you throw it at 106. Now I smite Gromp on Maokai, and as you guys know, the only thing about Maokai's jungling that is kind of special is your Q can interrupt auto attacks. So if you Q right before the large monster hits an auto on you, then it'll interrupt it and it'll save you some life. But other than that, it's super easy to clear on Maokai, and you don't even really have to do that. It's not going to be hard. I do smite red here. As far as general smites for Maokai, it's best to smite Gromp and Raptors because you're a ganking tank, so those are the two best smites for you. But if you have to smite red buff to get health, that's perfectly fine too. I would never smite Krugs on Maokai, and the only time you smite wolves is if you're getting invaded a lot. So here comes the first action of the game. I was just clearing Scuttle. I throw my E over. Make sure to remember that your E gives you sight, so you can just throw it somewhere, and that way you don't have to face check stuff if you think it's risky. I throw this over here to see if Elise is doing that. Since this is cleared, I know that she either started blue, which I really doubt, or if she started blue, then she would be around red. If she started red, then she should have just cleared this blue, because I just cleared the red and came and checked it. So then I see her ganking mid, and this is going to be a pretty easy counter gank. And this Elise, this is going to happen quite a lot, but I don't know if this Elise was tilting or if she was just really trying to make plays, but none of this Elise's ganks were very good at all. So she flashes in spider form to get her E to get in range of Ahri. What she should have done is just walked up here. She would have run into me, and that would have been a whole different scenario. But as far as what Elise was planning, this was just messy. Because then she's gonna flash, she's gonna E in, she's gonna Q before she does any damage to Ahri. That's round 2. But this is a Maokai video, so basically, all I've seen so far is Elise wasted both her escapes, her E and her flash, just to get to my Ahri, so she should be a pretty easy kill. I'm going to throw my sapling behind the Elise because this sapling does 2 things. One, it's going to hit Zed, it's going to slow Zed, and Zed's not going to be able to come help the Elise. 2, Elise tries to run, the sapling hits her, it's going to slow her, we're going to catch her because she doesn't have flash. So you should always throw your sapling to cut someone off if they're really far away from you, but if they're close enough to W without risk, then you want to W in and throw your sapling after. It's just depending on your position to them. Since I was really far from the Elise, I want to throw my sapling to cut off. I'm going to go ahead and flash in because I didn't want this Elise to get any extra damage on the Ahri. I also knew that Elise's flash was down, and if Ahri had gotten low, then Zed might have been able to flash in and kill the Ahri. So I just want to go ahead and make sure this Elise dies quickly. I do let Ahri get the kill. It's important to note, Ahri does hit a flash charm, but unfortunately my W wasn't up, so we're not going to be able to do anything about that. But anyways, it is important to remember that when you're playing a tank, you don't necessarily look for kills. If you get kills, then it happens. You know, you can't stop yourself from getting like a red buff kill, or if the champion might live and then you need to kill him. But if you can give it to your laner, you should, because as I've always said with tanks, no matter how much gold you get, you're still going to be a tank. You know, a tank's job is to take damage for their carries. So no matter how fed you get, a tank is a tank. So knowing that, you should try to let your laners get kills. Here, Elise is making another risky gank, and the reason this is a risky gank is because 1, our bot lane's already almost at their turret. 2, Elise doesn't have flash, and 3, they didn't know where I was. Obviously, I have Raptor buff right here, so I know it's not warded anywhere. And since they don't know where I am going to get a really good counter gank off. Elise goes in way too deep. Gonna throw the sapling to cut her off once again because I had a long distance. That's the only reason you do it. If she had still been feared when I got close enough, then I would have saved the sapling for after. But then here, I'm gonna go ahead and snare the Elise. I'm gonna knock up the Tristana. The Tristana's gonna jump in. That was okay for the Tristana to do because Lucian's gonna die and she's gonna get the assist. However, she really didn't have to jump in. Obviously, Nami got the kill, and now it just put her at a little more risk, but we're not going to be able to kill her anyways because me and Fiddlesticks are both out of mana. And I do miss my Q on the Nami. I didn't miss it as in I aimed it poorly. It was just Nami was too far away, and I used my Q as soon as he came off of cooldown. Now it's just back to jungling. So in my last Maokai video, I said you don't really want to use your W in the jungle. The exception to this rule is Dragon or Baron. Of course, you want to use everything. And then red buff, blue buff, or scuttle crab, you also, or gromp. So pretty much anything that has a lot of HP, and the things that have a lot of HP are either the buffs or the standalone mobs. So gromp has a lot of HP, scuttle has a lot of HP, and all the buffs have a lot of HP. And the reason you want to use your W is because it does do max percentage damage. It is capped versus monsters, but 300 damage is still more than most of your other spells are going to be doing, at least early. So I do use my W on those, but otherwise you don't want to use it just because it's a lot of mana and you're going to be able to clear whether you use it or not. You really don't have to ever use it. You can use your other spells to kill these things, but it's just going to make it a little bit quicker. So now it's just back to farming. All I have to do right now in this game, our team's really far ahead and I'm doing really well. So what I'm going to do in this game is try to get up vision to see where Elise is going and then keep counter ganking her, because at this point and for the rest of the game pretty much, every time Elise ganks a lane, if I'm there as well, then my team's going to get the advantage just because of how far ahead I am of Elise. So what that means is killing scuttle crabs, and then where you want to ward if you're trying to counter gank. And I actually answered a question on the subreddit Summoner School the other day. I do visit it sometimes just to try to get my name out there, you know, since we're kind of still a small YouTube channel. But anyways, some guy asked how he should set up counter ganks was one of his questions. Now that is very bad jungling, that mindset that you need to set up a counter gank. The reason that you don't set up ganks in this game, we're gonna go ahead and rewind it a little bit. So I have something, so you guys can watch something while I talk. So the reason that you don't set up ganks is because of 1, the game's in a really fast meta, and 2, jungling has always been about efficiently using your time. And if you set up a counter gank, then what I think you mean is sit in a bush and wait for the enemy to come. How you set up counter ganks are you get scuttle crabs, whether you want to get both scuttle crabs, and then the bushes you want to ward are just the exit bushes from their jungle. So since I'm on red team and Elise is on blue team, I want to have vision right here, I want to have vision right here, or right here, preferably right here because it shows all 3 paths, right? I want to have vision right here because once again, there are 3 paths that it shows, 4 actually right here. And then 2, have vision right here. And then that way you'll see where Elise is headed and then you can go counter gank her off. Never ever sit in a bush because you think the enemy is going to come. Never just sit there and then wait for them to come. You always want to have a vision and have a general idea of where they're going. So here, Ahri and Zed get in a fight, and Zed either lags or he just thinks Ahri's gonna die and he can BM or something. Either way, because of it, Ahri gets to outplay him, and then she's gonna live because of dangerous game. So I used my ult just to give Ahri the damage reduction. I didn't really have to do that. One thing to note, in the first Maokai guide, that's before they nerfed Maokai's ult, you used to be able to use it in the jungle just to stack up your passive, but now the cooldown's so long it's really not worth it. Just save it for when you go for ganks, and once again, like I said, you're not going to really have sustained problems in the jungle anyways. So now, just clearing my red because I was mid and my red was up, and remember when you're jungling you want to always do sweeps is what I call them, and we can actually remove, I didn't know that FPS counter was there. But anyways, what you want to do is sweeps, and what I mean by sweeps are, since my red was up and my raptors were up, I wouldn't kill raptors and then go to red and then go to wolves, right? You want to kill red, raptors, wolves. You want to do them in straight lines as much as you can, and that way it just saves you time, and like I said earlier, time is everything in the jungle. So now I'm going over here. Elise invaded my blue for some reason. We can watch this. What gives it away is that the whole bot lane came up to help her. I don't know if Elise was giving somebody else the buff or their bot lane thought our bot lane was going there, but we don't have vision, you know, we had no idea what was going on until their bot lane came. And then now, here's Elise, level 5, Lucian's level 6, and Lucian was doing kind of well. I think he already had a kill, yeah. And Elise is just going to die. Once again, this is one of those things that this Elise just played very aggressively and tried to make plays all game. As soon as she lost in that counter gank mid lane, her primary focus should have just been farming. Because all you have to do is farm up and then scale into late game. She should have also built Cinderhulk instead of Runeglaive at this point, because if you're behind, you'd never build Runeglaive on Elise. Now champions like, I'm going to finish this talk about Runeglaive. You never would want to build Runeglaive when you're behind on Elise, because she can work with Cinderhulk. Now a champion like Nidalee or something, then you would have to go Runeglaive just because it's the only one that works on your kit. But Elise can go Cinderhulk, and that's perfectly fine, and that's what you do when you're behind. You don't keep going for Runeglaive and keep going for invades. I don't know. But anyways, I'm trying to kill the Gromp, but I see that this got warded, and since I have a Raptor buff, I'm going to go ahead and come over here. Unfortunately, I used my red trinket also to try to deny. If your red trinket blocks a ward before the ward sees you, then your Raptor buff won't go off, but I unfortunately mistimed it, and then it went off. And as soon as I go for this, Zed either didn't see me or he didn't think I was going to come help Ahri. Either way, they get into a fight. I go ahead and flash in because both of these champions move around so much. I just want to get into the middle so I can react to what happens. So I flash in. In hindsight, I didn't need it because Zed runs away. But, no, actually, I would have had to flash at some point because I barely caught up to Zed. And then I'm going to go ahead and W him, Q him, and then luckily Ahri's Ignite gets the kill. Once again, I don't really want the kills. And here, once again, I don't know if at this point Elise was just really tilted and she's trolling, or she's trolling. It could have been one of either thing. But here, I have just enough mana to ult and then W in. I didn't have to ult. The reason I ulted is because I didn't want Ahri to take any damage. But as soon as I dashed to the Elise, she was going to die. So now it's back to jungling. Pretty simple stuff. Another thing is this Elise didn't build refill potion. I don't know if this Elise just was spot. But this is the Maokai video, so we'll stop talking about Elise so much. Now, once again, like I said, just make sure you kill your Gromps as much as you can when you're ahead. When you're behind, it's risky to kill Gromp because it's not your side of the map, you know, it's neutral map. So if you're ahead, you should try to do Gromp as much as you can. If you're behind, don't worry about it. Just get up wards in your side of the jungle to make sure you don't get invaded. Now here, the Kennen is pushing, and I don't want him to get this turret really low, so I go ahead and come in. In hindsight, I should have waited because my Lee Sin is on the way, and me and the Kennen are going to fight. Kennen can't kill me, and I can't really kill Kennen, is how it goes. And if I had waited a little bit longer, then my Lee Sin could have got there and gotten the kill. I know why I did that. I did that just to try to make sure the turret didn't get low, but I didn't have to do that. The turret was fine. And now, killing Scuttle again. There's a pink ward. I'm going to go ahead and clear it. Finish off Scuttle. And probably look to gank mid just because of how well my mid laner's doing and how fed it's gotten me. You know, you might as well. One thing to note also about jungling is that you always want to try to gank lanes that are ahead. Now, if all of your lanes are losing, then it's different. And you have to work around that. But if you have a lane that's winning, then you want to try to focus on it because that's going to give you the most lead and it's going to give that laner an opportunity to carry. So now I'm just looking around for a gank. Elise is mid, but I'm pretty sure Ahri could just 2v1 Elise and Zed if she had to, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. And I come down bot, my Raptors gets procced, and unfortunately I don't immediately clear the ward, so I'm not going to be able to make use of my Raptors. I have to use a red trinket. And then here, I just had some miscommunication with my Fiddlesticks, so I see a really low health Tristana, and my Lucian's fed and my Fiddlesticks is fed, so I'm ready to dive here. Because if we dive properly, it's going to be fine. I'll tank the turret for a little bit, then Fiddlesticks comes in and tanks, and then we get the kill, nobody dies. But my Fiddlesticks just really didn't want to dive, and I didn't know that. I should have just asked him. That would have solved all the problems. But I didn't, and the result is me and Lucian are fighting, and then Fiddlesticks just isn't there. He just didn't go in when we did. So I'm going to die. Like I said, that was just some miscommunication. I thought we were all on the same page bot, but I should have asked my Fiddlesticks first before I went in. And now, as for the build, I am going to be going Cinder Hulk into Righteous Glory like I showed in the item sets, and then I actually am going to be building Warmogs this game, which I didn't show in the item sets part. And Warmogs is still fine on Maokai, but the only times I would build Warmogs is if the enemies are really behind. Not even you're ahead, but the enemies are just behind. Because if the enemies aren't behind, you're going to want some resistances. But in this case, since we were just so far ahead and they weren't doing any damage, you might as well build health because they had mixed damage as well. And health obviously helps you versus any kind of damage. But you know, if they are you only do this. You can get Warmogs later on Maokai. I just forgot to mention it in the item builds. But you would never build it third unless if you're just obscenely fed or ahead. Okay, so here I catch the Elise doing Gromp. I'm going to go ahead and smite that from her. My smite is stronger than hers. I don't know if she had smite up or not, but even if she did, my smite does more damage than hers right now. It does, what is it? Not chilling smite. It does like 40 more damage, I think. Smite goes up. It's something like that. I can't even remember. I should know because I'm a jungler, but now it's so easy to just hover over your smite and see how much damage it does. But she does 570. Okay, so it's 30 more. Anyways, Zed is ganking bot. I see that. I'm gonna come try to save him. And now here, let's talk about what happens this fight. So my bot lane does really well. They get a double kill because they're fed. And then I see Zed, and what I want to do, Elise also stunned to me, but I don't really care. At least I can totally ignore her at this point. What I want to do here is get Lucian in my ult, because my ult's going to reduce the damage that he takes from the Zed ult. However, as soon as I W to the Zed, he W's out, and then that just means that my ult doesn't really get to stay on Lucian, but that was what my general plan was, at least. Now here we are going to get the Elise, because like I said, Elise is just completely pitiful at this point. I'm not trying to rag on this Elise player, but he got behind and he didn't know how to play when he was behind, and then because of that we're just going to be able to ignore him and kill him every time he comes to a fight. Here, me and the Fiddlesticks are doing Dragon. I go ahead and let the Fiddlesticks tank Dragon simply because he's not going to take any damage from it. I could have tanked it, but, you know, I might as well let him because he was going to recall anyways, and then now I'm at good health to stay out in the jungle and gank again. So as far as the game's going, really all our team has to do at this point is just group up. We have a AoE team comp. We have Maokai, Ahri, even Lee Sin, Lucian's ult. We have a really good team fight comp. So all we have to do is group up and then team fight, and we can end the game. Here, my Lucian, I think he got in a fight with the Kinnan. He gets low, and then the Elise is going to finish him off. And here I chase the Elise down a little bit, but I overstayed. I don't think I die here. I might die here. I overstayed either way, whether I die or not. Oh, okay. I did my best to escape here. Actually played that pretty well. And then the enemies stop chasing me because they know my team is coming, I guess. And then, never mind, Zed comes in. I W to the Scuttle because I didn't see Tristana there as well. The only reason I W to the Scuttle was to try to get some distance from them, but I did die either way, so it would have been better for me to snare a champion and would have made this a little bit easier for my team. But either way, it's fine. Now, let's see. Pretty much nothing happens here. The enemy team used a lot to try to kill me, and since my solo laners are fed, they're going to be able to clean that up really easily. Now, okay, I'm spawning in a second, and I am going to go Merc Treads, it looks like, this game. They didn't have that much CC, but Kinnan can stun. If the Kinnan's any good, he can get 2 stuns off in a really, really quick amount of time, so might as well get it for him. And then Elisa's stun as well. They also, another reason, they had mixed damage, so you might as well go Merc Treads because 1, they're going to help you with CC, and then 2, it's going to reduce their magic damage. So when they're mixed damage, you wouldn't necessarily go Ninja Tabby because then the CC is still going to be a big deal. So Merc Treads is fine. My team gets in a fight mid. I'm just farming. You know, I could have gone straight mid. Like I said, we're so ahead at this point that really all we have to do is group and end. But the game, as you can see, lasts 6 more minutes. I'm pretty sure we just delay it by trying to go for kills or something like that. That's usually how solo queue goes. We do kill the Kinnan. He comes in, and then Elise shows up, so we're just going to obliterate her real quick. And I did actually get that kill. That was one of those cases where it's not... I didn't want to get the kill, but I also couldn't have left it to my team because then Elise would have killed me. So like in those scenarios, you just need to kill him. And here, I steal the red because might as well while I'm in the area, and I get warded, but it's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up quite a lot here because honestly, all that's happening, you see, Lee Sin just got caught because he was out of place. All that's going to happen for the rest of this game is my team might get caught when they're out of place, but we're so far ahead that we're going to eventually win. Here, Elise was chasing my Fiddlesticks for some reason, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the Righteous Glory and catch up to her as soon as I can. Fiddlesticks is going to get the kill. That's fine with me. Even though Fiddlesticks is a support, he's still a damage support, and he's still going to be doing more damage than me because I don't build damage on Maokai. That's not how I like to play Maokai. So it's fine that Fiddlesticks got the support. And then here, Kinnan goes, he kills the Fiddlesticks, but I am Maokai, so you're not going to get away from me, and I'm going to be able to kill him with my team. And yeah, I think I'm just going to keep it at 4 times speed, unless if something happens. Nothing's really happened. Elise is approaching me. I'm going to kill her with Ahri because if Elise shows up, she dies. And we're going to push and end before long. Yeah, and like I said, I did go Warmogs this game. I don't know if I'm waiting on it or I think I got a big potion. No, I should have got a big potion if I could have afforded it. Let's see. No, I couldn't afford it either. Like I said, I do go Warmogs this game, but you don't want to go Warmogs. This isn't like a build for a fair game, but we have more than double their kills, so I can kind of build whatever I wanted. And Warmogs, when you build it, as you guys know, it's pretty much like a free recall all the time, so I can get in a fight, and then as soon as I leave the fight after a little bit, my Warbind is going to heal me to full. We'll actually rewind it so we can see what happens here. It's like Zed got too close, they're going to kill him. Ahri's trying... Elise shows her face, she's obviously going to die. Just don't build like this when you're behind, please, on Elise, but this is the Maokai video. Yeah, they're just so fed that they can do pretty much whatever they want. So as for what I did to win this game, obviously I got some very good counter ganks on Elise. Half of that was me having good knowledge of the game. The other half was Elise playing it really, really, really poorly. And then, as for the rest, just make sure you give your carries kills, gank as much as you can. Build Righteous Glory first because it helps out your team fighting quite a lot. And then other than that, it's pretty easy to play Maokai. Like I said earlier, or I think I said, oh no, that was in the other intro, sorry. So, like I said earlier, not like I said earlier, sorry. Maokai is good right now, but he's not the top tier tank. He's kind of middle tier. I think that Amumu's better than Maokai. I think that Malphite and Rammus are better than Maokai. And I think that Nautilus is better than Maokai. But as for an all-purpose tank, he would be up there with Amumu and Nautilus. You know, Rammus and Malphite are only good if they're versus AD teams. But anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.